Stereotypes and Characterization. Bailley, Helmick, Hyder, Deakins.
Defining stereotyping. Stereotyping is a character with generalized traits, characteristics that make the character representative rather than the individual.
Scout stereotype is gender. She's the type of girl who prefers overalls to dresses, gets in fistfights with other boys, and is nowhere near ladylike, but she's expected to wear dresses, sit on parties, and play with dolls. It's rumored to be that Harper Lee based Scout off of her younger self because she has no documented relationships with any other people.
Jim insults Scout by calling her a girl. See there? Jim was scowling triumphantly. Nothing to it. I swear, Scout, sometimes you act so much like a girl, it's mortifying. Chapter 4. Aunt Alexandra tells Scout that she used to wear dresses and start to sit on parties. I could not possibly hope to be a lady if I wore breeches. When I said I could do nothing in a dress, she said I wasn't supposed to be doing anything that required pants. Chapter 9.
Jim's stereotype was a typical Southern boy who enjoyed football and was also the voice of the town.
At the beginning of the novel, when Jim breaks his arm, Scout comments, "When it is healed and Jim's fears of never being able to play football were assuaged, he was settled self-conscious about his injury." Chapter 1. Later on in Chapter 26, when he tries out for the football team, Scout also comments, "When he went out for the football team, he was too slender and too young to do anything but carry the team water buckets. That wasn't his ideal situation, but he was still enthused to be part of the team."
Atticus's stereotype is a Southern white, educated, empathetic man. The town looks at him as a gentleman for taking everyone else's feelings in consideration, like taking on the Tom Robinson trial even though he knew he was going to lose.
In Chapter 11, Atticus says to Jim, when Mr. Bose says rude comments to Scout and Jim, he says, "You just hold your head high and be a gentleman. Whatever she says to you, it's your job not to let her make you mad."
Jim's stereotype is that he is a recluse. He rarely goes outside, leaving the people of the town to have their own assumptions of him, like the kids' assumption that he's a big scary monster. In Chapter 1, Scout describes Boo as a 6.5 feet tall. Judging from his tracks, he dined on raw squirrels and any cats he could catch. That's why his hands were blood-stained. If you ate an animal raw, you could never wash the blood off. There was a long, jagged scar that ran across his face. What teeth he had were yellow and rotten. His eyes popped, and he drooled most of the time.
Bob Yule's stereotype is a drunken, ignorant, white trash of Maycomb.
The first thing you can do, Yule, is get your stinking carcass off my property. You're leaning on it, and I can't afford fresh paint for it. Second thing you can do is stay away from my cook, or I'll have you up for assault. This is in Chapter 27, when Bob was following around Helen after the trial. In Chapter 3, the Yules are described as a disgrace of Maycomb for 3 generations because they're lazy, don't work, and live off of everyone else. Atticus was leaving the post office when Mr. Yule approached him, cursed him, spat on him, and threatened to kill him in Chapter 23 because Bob was humiliated by Atticus in the trial. Tom Robinson is stereotyped as a Southern hard-working black who got convicted for a crime that he didn't commit. The quote from Chapter 17 describes how Tom wouldn't have been able to have committed the crime because he had a bad left hand and the person who did it was left-handed. The quote from Chapter 19 describes the work that Tom did for Mayella. Miss Marty is stereotyped as a Southern graceful lady. Marty speaks up for the like-minded people of Maycomb by saying, "The handful of people in this town who say that fair play is not marked law only, the handful of people who say a fair trial is for everybody, not just us, the handful of people with enough humility to think, when they look at a Negro, there, but for the Lord's kindness am I." Chapter 24. Hecate is stereotyped as a fair, protecting authority figure. He always does the right thing, and he's the type of cop that you would want to have in modern times. I may not be much, Mr. Finch, but I'm still sheriff of Maycomb County, and Bob Yule fell on his knife. Good night, sir. This is in Chapter 30, whenever Atticus was questioning whether or not Jim was the one who actually stabbed Bob. Maya is stereotyped to be an abused and uneducated teenage girl.
In chapter 18, Atticus uses Mara during her testimony. She's very reluctant and hesitant to answer a clever question and changes her story a million times. When she is asked what really happened, she doesn't hear that Atticus is just trying to help because she's very uneducated from the way she grew up and then who her family is.
It's not necessary to tell all you know. It's not ladylike. In the second place, folks don't like to have somebody around them know more than they do. It aggravates them. You're not going to change any of them by talking right. They've got to want to learn themselves, and when they don't want to learn, there's nothing you can do but keep your mouth shut or talk their language. This shows that Calpurnia is educated because she doesn't talk like the other black women in her church that Scout was referring to. Reverend Fox is an open-minded, good-hearted, courageous pastor. Unlike Lua, he welcomes the Finch children with an open heart and open doors in Chapter 12 when Calpurnia brings Scout and Jim to her church. He also let Scout and Jim sit with him during the trial because they arrived late and they had nowhere else to sit. We were playing strip poker up yonder by the fish pool. Bill said this in Chapter 6 to cover Jim because of
Miss DeVos could be stereotyped as the, quote, meanest old woman to ever live, quote, in Chapter 4. Starting Chapter 11, Scout summarizes her daily passing of Mrs. DeVos. They consist of her shouting insults at the children loud enough for the entire neighborhood to hear. Miss DeVos yells things such as calling Scout an ugly girl for addressing her with simple things like an hello. Scout refers to her as vicious. She also implies that Miss DeVos called her the sassiest, most disrespectful mutt who has ever passed her way. Miss DeVos can also be looked at as a historicism character because she was born pre-Civil War, lived through the Civil War, and now she's living post-Civil War. She's also lived through all the Jim Crow laws and all the slave period. This can contribute to the way she is today and why she is so grouchy and crabby.
Proper, southern, classy woman. Chapter 13 and 15, Aunt Alexandra invites herself to stay with the children to give them a feminine influence because she didn't think that Atticus was doing a good enough job. Dolphus is stereotyped as a town drunk and can be looked at as trash-like. Try to give them a reason. You see, it helps folks if they can latch onto a reason when I come to town to sell them. If I leave a little and drink out of this sack, folks can say Dolphus Raymond in the clutches of whiskey. That's why he won. I change its ways. He can help himself. That's why he lives the way he does. Dolphus does this to give the people something to talk about other than his mixed children. Lua is stereotyped to be an uneducated, typical black woman of this time period. Chapter 12, when Calpurnia takes Jim and Scout to her church, Lua says, "You ain't got no business bringing white children in here. They got their church, we got ours. It is our church, ain't it, Miss Cal?" This shows that she really is against white people and she does not want any part of white children being in her church. Stephanie Crawford is stereotyped as a town gossiper. All throughout the book, she makes it her business to spread gossip and is the Finch's kid main source of rumors about Boo Radley and takes just as much delight in the ghoulish tales as Jim does.
In Chapter 5, Miss Marty uses Stephanie as an example. That is 3/4 colored folks and 1/4 Stephanie Crawford. Miss Marty and the rest of the town know that the information from Miss Stephanie is not reliable, but she embellishes her tales and makes them over-dramatic anyway.
Grace Merriweather is stereotyped to be a heavily religious, hypocritical closet drinker. In Chapter 24, she's said to be the most devout lady in Maycomb. She goes on about being a good Christian and practicing good Christian values when she herself doesn't have any. She still refers to blacks as darkies, and she treats the blacks in Maycomb as if they were still slaves. Link Dees is stereotyped to be a good neighbor. After Tom was killed and throughout his entire trial, Mr. Dees helped support the Robinson family. Not only did Link Dees help the Robinson family after Tom was killed, he stood up during the trial and announced to the audience, "I just want the whole lot of you to know that one thing right now, that boy's worked for me for 8 years and I never had a speck of trouble out of him." Walter Cunningham Jr. is stereotyped to be poor and basic. In Chapter 2, he was offered a quarter by Miss Caroline for lunch, but refused to take it because he knew he couldn't repay it. Scout tries to explain to Miss Caroline by saying, "You're shaming him, Miss Caroline. Walter hasn't got a quarter home to bring to you, and you can't use any stove wood." The Cunninghams don't take anything that they can't repay, and Scout knew that.
Although this book was set in the 1930s, all of these stereotypes are still relevant today, especially in the South, which is where we live. As I went through this video, I bet you picked out characters that remind you of people you know. There are always going to be stereotypes because people will always group people together and give them a label. It was relevant back then, it is relevant today, and it will always be relevant.